Welcome to our channel, where you don't just learn English. You learn how to think, grow, and become powerful in life. Today's topic is something most people ignore, but the most successful people quietly practice every day. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed why the most successful people often speak less? They don't argue in every conversation. They don't explain themselves to everyone. They don't react to every insult. Why? Because they know the truth. Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. You can say sorry. You can explain yourself. But the damage is done. You see, a person may forget a compliment, but they will never forget an insult. Silence is not weakness. It is protection. It is power. It is preparation. The person who speaks less listens more. And the person who listens more learns more. And when you learn more, you grow faster. Remember this line. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have to say something. This video is not about being shy. This is not about being introverted. This video is about becoming wise. Becoming calm, controlled, and dangerous, but silent. Because when you speak less, you protect your energy, your image, your focus, and your mind. After watching this video, you will learn the hidden power of silence, the benefits of staying calm, how to use silence as a tool to win in life, and how to achieve mastery over your own mind. This video will not only inspire you, it will also improve your English, your vocabulary, and the way you speak and think. So watch till the end, because this video might just change your entire life. Benefit 1. You stay ahead of your competitors. When you speak less, you don't reveal your plans. You don't tell people what you're building. You don't share every idea, every dream, or every move. You move in silence. You let your success make the noise. Let me give you a powerful example. There was a young man who wanted to start his own business. All his friends said, "You can't do it. You don't know anything." He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He just smiled and worked in silence. While others were busy showing off on social media, he was reading books, learning skills, working late nights. They laughed at him. 1 year later, they were shocked. He had built a profitable business, and when they asked, "How did you do it?" he simply said, "I was busy working while you were busy talking." Silence kept him focused. Silence protected his energy, and silence gave him the element of surprise. So remember this: a silent person always moves ahead, because they don't waste time trying to prove themselves. Benefit 2. You understand people's intentions clearly. When you're silent, you give others a chance to speak. And when they speak, they reveal who they truly are. You start to see the truth behind their words. You notice who is lying, who is insecure, who is trying to manipulate, and who is genuine. Because people expose themselves when they talk too much. Let me give you a strong, real-world example. Imagine you're in a group of friends. Everyone is laughing, joking, speaking loudly. But you're just sitting quietly, observing. Suddenly, you notice. One person keeps talking badly about others. Another person keeps bragging about money. Another keeps making small, hurtful jokes. Because you're silent, you see everything clearly. But they don't see you. They think you're not smart. But inside your mind, you've already understood everything about them. You've already decided, this one I can trust. That one I can't. That's the power of silence. The smarter you get, the less you speak. Because now, you listen to understand, not to reply. In business, in relationships, in daily life, The silent observer always wins, because silence gives you space to think clearly. It gives you power to decide wisely. Benefit 3. The first one to speak loses. In life, silence is not just peace. It is a strategy. And one of the most powerful rules in business, negotiation, and leadership is this: the first one to speak loses. Why? Because when you speak first, you reveal your thoughts. You show your cards. You give power to the other person. But when you stay silent, you make the other person uncomfortable. You make them guess. You make them nervous. Let me give you a powerful example. There was a man who went for a job interview at a big company. The interviewer said, "We'll give you $70,000 per year. How does that sound?" The man didn't say anything. He just smiled and stayed silent. 10 seconds passed. 15 seconds. The silence was uncomfortable. Then the interviewer spoke again. "Okay, let me talk to HR. Maybe we can do $80,000. Boom. He didn't say a single word, but he earned $10,000 more just by staying silent. This is not just a trick. This is power. In every high-level negotiation, whether in business or politics, the person who speaks first often loses the control. Now let's look at someone you know. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba. After building one of the biggest companies in China, Jack Ma became too powerful, too outspoken, too famous. He started giving interviews, speaking against powerful institutions. Then one day, he disappeared. For months, no one knew where he went. That's when people realized, in some games, silence is not just powerful. It's necessary for survival. When he returned, he was not the same. He had learned. Sometimes speaking too much puts you in danger. So remember this: the strongest man in the room is often the quietest. Don't rush to speak. Don't try to impress. Don't always explain yourself, because silence keeps the power in your hands. Benefit 4. You can focus in times of danger. When danger comes, most people panic. They scream. They run. They talk without thinking. They act without clarity. But the person who stays silent thinks. And the person who thinks clearly survives. Let me tell you a true story. There was a soldier trapped in enemy territory. His team was gone. His radio was broken. It was night. He was alone. All around him, enemy soldiers were walking with guns. One small sound, and he would be dead. What did he do? He stayed completely silent. He slowed his breathing. He stopped all movement. He didn't even speak to himself in his mind. He became one with the silence. For 6 hours he waited. Then, when the time was right, he escaped. Later, in an interview, he said, "Silence saved my life. If I had moved, or even whispered, I wouldn't be here today." Now you might not be in a battlefield, but in life, danger takes many forms. A toxic argument at work, a sudden problem in business, a painful situation in a relationship, a time when you're about to lose control. In those moments, you have two choices: react fast or remain silent. The person who reacts emotionally makes mistakes, but the person who stays silent sees everything clearly. Silence gives you time. Time gives you clarity. Clarity gives you power. Even in nature, it's the silent hunter who wins. The lion doesn't roar before attacking. The eagle doesn't scream before striking. They stay quiet, they focus, and they strike with precision. So, next time life gets dangerous, don't speak, don't react, don't panic. Just be silent, be still. Let your mind find the way. Because in danger, silence is your sword. Benefit 5. Silence builds strength. In a world full of noise, silence is not emptiness. It is training. It is building. It is becoming unshakable. Silence doesn't mean you are doing nothing. It means you are doing something so powerful that no one can see. Let me take you into a world that understood this power deeply. The monks of ancient India. One of them was Gautama Buddha. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince with riches, power, and luxury. But something inside him was empty. So he left everything behind and entered a world of silence. He walked alone through forests. He sat under a tree, not speaking for days, not eating, not moving, not complaining, just watching his thoughts, just breathing, just becoming something greater. And in that silence, he found his awakening. He once said, "Silence is the language of the awakened." It means when you stop talking, you start hearing your own soul. You start hearing what truly matters. Now let's bring this to today's world. You see people everywhere, posting, talking, shouting, complaining. But the strongest people, they're silent. They're not trying to prove. They're not trying to impress. They are building themselves in the shadows, like a boxer in training. No one sees him. But every morning, at 5 a.m., he's running. Every night, he's punching the bag. He doesn't post stories. He doesn't shout. And one day, he steps into the ring, and the world says, "Where did he come from?" He came from silence. That's what silence does. It builds you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It builds discipline, patience, emotional control, mental focus, and most of all, inner power. Even in shows like Peaky Blinders, you see how Tommy Shelby never reacts quickly. He listens, he watches, he walks into a room and says very little, but every word hits like a bullet. Because people know, the quietest man in the room is often the most dangerous. That's not fiction. That's a reflection of real power. So ask yourself, are you wasting your strength by talking too much? Or are you building your power in silence? Because silence is not weakness. Silence is where legends are born. Benefit 6. Silence helps you negotiate. Negotiation is not a game of words. It's a game of patience, energy, and control. And in this game, the silent man always wins. Why? Because when you're silent, you don't show desperation. Don't reveal your weaknesses. Don't let emotions control the deal. You create mystery. You create pressure. You control the tempo. Let's look at a powerful example from history. Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison. Most people would come out broken, weak, angry, lost. But when Mandela walked out of that prison, he didn't shout. He didn't demand revenge. He stayed calm. He stayed silent. And when it was time to negotiate with the leaders who had once imprisoned him, he didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He listened. And when he spoke, his silence before each word made the room freeze. Because people could feel, this man is not speaking from ego. This man is speaking from strength. And what happened? He didn't just win freedom for himself. He freed an entire nation. That's the power of silence in negotiation. Now let's bring it to business. Imagine two businessmen at a table. One keeps talking. "I want this deal. I'll give you 20%. I can increase the offer. Let's do it today." The other sits quietly, listens, observes. Then he says just one line. "I think you're underestimating our value." And then he goes silent again. The room becomes tense. The first businessman starts to panic. He doesn't know what the other is thinking. That silence, that pause, that stillness, it creates pressure. It makes the other side fold. Because in negotiation, the person who speaks less wins more. And remember, when you stay silent, you allow the other person to show their hand. You listen not to reply, but to understand their real intentions. And sometimes, your silence forces them to negotiate with themselves. They start changing their own offer. You just sit and watch. That's real control. That's how the world's best leaders, CEOs, politicians, and warriors win. They don't shout, they don't beg, they don't rush. They sit, they breathe, and they let silence do the work. Benefit 7. You will know yourself better. Most people today are strangers to themselves. They know their phone better than they know their own heart. They know their favorite celebrity's birthday, but they don't know why they're sad, why they're anxious, why they feel empty even after success, parties, or money. Do you know why? Because the world is too loud. We are surrounded by noise 24/7. Social media, opinions, arguments, news, messages, notifications, fear, pressure. In all this noise, your true voice gets buried. But here's the truth. The moment you become silent, you meet yourself. Silence is the only place where you can truly face yourself. In silence, you start hearing your own thoughts clearly. At first, it's uncomfortable. You sit alone and your mind starts shouting, "Why did I fail? Why am I not happy? Why do I feel empty? Am I good enough? What do I really want?" Most people run away from these thoughts. They turn on music, open Instagram, call someone. But the strong ones, the brave ones, they sit with their silence. And in that silence, they face their darkness, their doubts, their fears. And slowly, they begin to understand who they really are. Let me give you a powerful real-world reflection. Once, there was a man who traveled the world searching for happiness. He went to parties, bought cars, visited temples, met gurus, but he still felt empty. Then one day, he locked himself in a small cabin in the mountains. No phone, no books, no people, just silence. The first day, he panicked. The second day, he cried. The third day, he began to hear something new. Not a voice from the outside, but a voice from within. He wrote in his journal, "I finally met someone I had ignored all my life. Me." That's what silence does. It introduces you to the most important person in your life, yourself. You begin to see what you truly want, what wounds you've been hiding, what dreams you forgot, what habits are destroying you, what values are guiding you. It's not therapy. It's not magic. It's just silence. You start separating what the world told you to be from what you were born to be. In silence, there is no judgment, no pressure, no noise, only truth. And the truth is this: you can't grow until you know who you are. You can't heal until you face what hurts. And you can't build a future until you sit with your past. So give yourself the gift of silence, not for the world, but for your own soul. Because the most powerful transformation always begins from within. Benefit 8. Silence gets people's attention. We live in a world where everyone is screaming. Look at me. Buy from me. Listen to me. Follow me. Notice me. People post every hour, talk every minute, react every second. But here's the truth. The more noise you make, the less people hear you. Because when everyone is shouting, no one stands out. But now imagine a room full of loud voices, and one person walks in, silent. They don't speak. They don't rush. They sit calmly, observing, waiting. Every head turns. People start wondering, who is that? Why is he so quiet? He must know something we don't. That's attention without effort. That's the kind of presence silence gives you. Let me give you a striking example. Have you ever heard of Julius Yego from Kenya? He was a javelin thrower, but he didn't have a coach, no support, no spotlight. While others were shouting about their training, Julius was silent, training by watching YouTube videos alone. People laughed. They said, "You'll never make it. You need a real coach." He didn't reply. He didn't fight back. He kept working in silence. And then, at the 2015 World Championships, he threw the javelin 92.72 meters. The stadium was shocked. The commentators were speechless. He had just become the world champion, trained by YouTube and silence. The world suddenly turned their cameras on him. And when they asked, "How did you do it?" he simply said, "I let my performance speak for me." That's power. That's how silence wins attention. You don't need to speak loudly. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. Let your silence build mystery. Let your results make noise. Even in your personal life, notice this. The people who talk too much about what they're going to do rarely do it. But the one who is quiet, who disappears for months and then returns with success, that's the person everyone respects. That's the person who commands attention without even asking for it. Because silence is not absence. Silence is presence. It says, "I don't need to prove myself. I am enough." In every room you enter, you don't need to be the loudest. You just need to be the most centered, calm, and silent. Because the world listens more when you speak less. Benefit 9. Silence builds trust. Trust is not built by speaking more. Trust is built by speaking less and meaning more. In a world where people say anything to impress and everything to manipulate, silence becomes your truth. Because silence shows you listen, you think before you speak, you don't rush to judge, you don't gossip, you don't betray private conversations. Let me ask you something. When something deep and emotional happens in your life, who do you go to? The friend who talks all the time? Or the friend who just sits with you in silence, holds your hand, nods gently, and listens with their eyes? That's the friend you trust. Because they don't need to say much. Their presence says everything. Let me tell you the story of Kalpana Chawla, the Indian-American astronaut. When she was in training, she was known for something rare. While other candidates were busy talking about their knowledge, trying to show how smart they were, Kalpana stayed silent. She listened. She absorbed. She practiced. One of her instructors once said, "When she spoke, people stopped and listened, because her silence had already earned their respect." That's the kind of silence that builds trust. People begin to say, "If she's quiet, she must be serious. If he's not talking, he must be thinking. He doesn't talk behind people's backs. She doesn't speak without purpose." When your silence becomes your strength, your character becomes your voice. And in business, in leadership, in friendship, in love, nothing is more valuable than trust. People don't trust those who talk too much, because deep down, we all know. The louder the words, the weaker the truth. But when you speak less, and your words carry weight, people listen. They believe. They follow. Even in the military, the best leaders aren't the ones who shout. They are the ones who walk silently through the camp, observe, listen, and speak only when it matters. And when they do, everyone listens. Why? Because trust is not built by volume. It's built by integrity. And nothing protects your integrity more than silence. So the next time you're tempted to talk too much, explain yourself or prove something. Pause. Take a breath. And remember, your silence can be louder than any speech. Benefit 10. Silence builds great relationships. If you want to build strong, deep, beautiful relationships, silence is not just helpful, it's essential. In love, in marriage, in friendship, in family, the deepest connections are not built by talking all the time. They are built by knowing when to be silent. When someone is crying, they don't need advice. They need silence. When someone is angry, they don't need your reaction. They need silence. When someone is sharing their truth, they don't need your judgment. They need silence. Let me give you a real example that will stay with you forever. There was an old man and his wife. They were married for 53 years. One day, a young man asked them, "What is your secret? How did you stay so in love for so long?" The old man smiled and said, "Because I never tried to win every argument. I learned to stay silent even when I was right." That one sentence is a masterclass in love. In every relationship, there comes a time when you want to shout, to prove, to fight. But if you can stay calm, stay silent, you protect something bigger than your ego. You protect the relationship. Look at nature. Even the moon and the ocean have a relationship. The moon doesn't speak. The ocean doesn't argue. But they still move together. Silently, powerfully, endlessly. That's what real connection looks like. And remember this. In real love, you don't need to explain everything. Sometimes your silence says, "I understand you." Sometimes your silence says, "I forgive you." Sometimes your silence says, "I'm still here." We often think love is about words. I love you. I miss you. I'm sorry. But the most powerful love is felt in the moments when no words are needed. And in friendship too. The best friends can sit in silence for hours and still feel connected. Because silence means, I don't need to fill space to feel close to you. I don't need to impress you. I am at peace with you. That's real intimacy. Even parents and children. Sometimes the greatest bond is not in advice, but in just sitting together in the kitchen, drinking tea in silence, and feeling safe. So if you want great relationships, learn to listen more, talk less, understand more, react less, pause more. And when you do speak, speak with kindness, with meaning, with presence. Because the person who knows when to stay silent is the one who knows how to truly love. Now that you know the powerful benefits of silence, you might be wondering, how can I develop this in my own life? Don't worry. Now I'll share 5 simple but powerful steps to help you master the art of silence and transform your life from the inside out. Step 1. Pause before you speak. Control is power. Silence doesn't start with being quiet all day. It starts with one powerful habit, the pause. Before you speak, pause. Before you reply, pause. Before you react, pause. That pause, even just 2 seconds, can save your life, your job, your relationship, and your energy. Let's take a very real, relatable situation. You're in an argument. Someone says something hurtful. Your mind screams, reply, defend yourself, say something back. But instead, you pause. You take a deep breath. And in that silence, you ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will my reply help or hurt? That pause changes everything. You don't lose control. You don't say words you'll regret. You don't destroy what you've built. You become the master of your emotions. Now think of someone like Barack Obama. Have you ever noticed how he speaks? He pauses before every sentence. He doesn't rush. He doesn't shout. He thinks deeply and then speaks calmly. That's why people trust him. That's why every word carries weight. Because he respects the silence between his words. You can learn the same. Next time someone says something rude or tries to test you, just pause. Don't answer immediately. Look into their eyes. Smile softly. Say nothing. Let the silence speak louder than your voice. Because the person who can pause is the person who can control any situation. Step 2. Spend time alone. Meet yourself in the silence. The second step to mastering silence is this. Be alone, be still, be silent. Not just for a few minutes, but make it a daily habit. Wake up early. Find a quiet corner. Leave your phone outside. Close your eyes. And just be silent. At first, your mind will resist. It will say, "This is boring. Nothing is happening." Check your phone, but don't move, because in that stillness, you will start to meet someone important, yourself. You will begin to notice your thoughts, your patterns, your dreams, your fears. You will hear your inner voice again, the one the world made you forget. Let me give you a powerful example. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, was a genius, not just in technology, but in thinking. Do you know what his secret was? Silence. He once said, "I take walks in silence, because that's when I can hear my best ideas." He would take long walks alone, no music, no talking, just silence and nature. And in those walks, he found the ideas that built Apple. That's not magic. That's the power of giving your mind space to think. You see, silence is not empty. Silence is a full room of answers, waiting for you to walk in. But you can only enter that room when you are alone, without distractions, without noise. So give yourself this gift every day. Just 10 minutes of silence. No phone, no music, no talking. And you'll start to feel more clarity, more control, more peace, more strength. Because silence is not just around you. It begins within you. Step 3. Speak less. Let your actions make the noise. You see, in today's world, everyone is talking. I will do this. I'm planning that. I'll start tomorrow. I'm working on something big. But 90% of people never do anything. Now think about the people you admire most. They don't talk much. They work in silence. They disappear. And then, they return with results. Let me give you an example. One that shook the world. Michael Jordan. Before he became a legend, he was just a skinny boy from North Carolina. In high school, he was cut from the basketball team. He cried. He was heartbroken. But he didn't argue with the coach. He didn't post online. He didn't beg for a second chance. He went silent. He made a decision. I'll show them, but not with words, with work. Every morning before sunrise, he was on the court. While others were sleeping, he was practicing jump shots. While others were talking, he was building his body. No attention, no cameras, no noise, just silence and sweat. And when he returned, he didn't just make the team. He became the best player on it. But he didn't stop there. He went on to become a 6-time NBA champion, 5-time MVP, and the name that millions around the world call the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And how did he do it? By mastering silence. He let his game speak. He let his results scream. He became a legend without needing to explain himself to anyone. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed. Michael Jordan. That's the power of silence. You don't have to announce your dreams. You don't need applause. You don't chase attention. You chase greatness. And when it arrives, the world will have no choice but to listen. Step 4. Observe more, judge less. The silent mind sees everything. The fourth step to mastering silence is this: become an observer, not a judge. When you become silent, you begin to see things others don't. People who talk too much miss the details. People who stay quiet. Notice everything. When you walk into a room, don't start talking. Just stop. Watch. Listen. You'll start to notice who is lying, who is nervous, who is pretending, who is truly confident, who is secretly hurting. Because silence sharpens your senses. Let me give you an example. There was once a quiet, underestimated woman named Angela Merkel. She didn't come from fame. She wasn't flashy. She didn't raise her voice in debates. She didn't try to dominate rooms with loud words. But slowly, silently, and with deep observation, she rose through the ranks of German politics, one decision at a time, in rooms full of powerful men shouting over each other. Angela sat calm, still, focused. While others rushed to speak, she listened, she watched, she waited. And then, when she spoke, the room fell silent, because her silence had already spoken louder than their noise. She didn't just lead Germany. She became the chancellor for 16 years, the most powerful woman in Europe. She led through crisis, recession, migration, and global challenges. And do you know what made her powerful? Not shouting, not show, not speeches, stillness, precision, silence. She once said, "Look at the world. Those who shout loudest are not always the most effective." That's what made her different. While others tried to control with noise, she led with quiet strength. She didn't demand power. She became power. That is the art of silence. True leaders don't need to raise their voice. Because when their silence enters the room, every voice lowers itself. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of awareness. The more silent your mind, the sharper your observation. You begin to see what motivates people, what scares them, what they are hiding, what they really want. And when you understand people, you don't fight them. You guide them. You lead them. So make silence your superpower. Next time someone tells you a story, don't just listen to the words. Watch their eyes, feel their energy, notice their pauses. Because what's not said is often more important than what is. This is how leaders are born, by staying quiet, staying present, and seeing what others miss. Step 5. Practice the art of not reacting. Silence is strength, not suppression. The fifth and final step is the hardest, but also the most powerful. Learn to stay silent, even when it hurts. This is the art of not reacting. People think silence is weakness, but real silence is control. When someone insults you, silence. When someone betrays you, silence. When someone misunderstands you, silence. Not because you're weak, not because you don't care, but because you're choosing peace over pride, wisdom over ego, growth over reaction. Let me tell you a real story from sports. There was once a young tennis player, Naomi Osaka. She became famous for her power on the court. But more than that, she became respected for her silence off the court. After winning Grand Slams, she didn't boast. After facing racist comments, she didn't fight back with anger. She just kept working. And once, when asked why she doesn't respond to hate online, she said, "Because I'm not here to fight. I'm here to grow." That's silence, not suppression. Strength. We live in a world where everyone wants to reply, argue, cancel, attack. But you stay calm. You walk away. You keep building. And one day, they will look at you, successful, happy, peaceful, and say, maybe I was wrong. You won't need to say, I told you so, because your silence already said everything. So remember, your reaction is your power. Don't give it away cheaply. A lion doesn't react to barking dogs. Neither should you. Walk away, stay silent, rise higher. Now, listen carefully. If you remember only one thing from this entire video, let it be this. Silence is not the absence of noise. Silence is the presence of strength. When you master silence, you master your mind, your emotions, your energy, and your entire life. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to react to every challenge. Because when you are silent, you are calm, you are powerful, you are focused, and you are free. The world will try to test you. Some will insult you, some will doubt you, some will try to break you. Let them. You just stay quiet. Work hard. Protect your energy. And move in silence. Because the day your success speaks for you, the world will listen without interruption. You don't have to prove your worth. You are already enough. You are already powerful. You just need to trust the silence inside you. So from today, don't fear silence. Don't avoid it. Embrace it, because it is not just a skill, it is your superpower. And if you found value in this message, if it touched your heart, if it made you feel something strong inside, then please subscribe to our channel. Because every day we don't just teach English. We help you become wiser, stronger, and unbreakable. See you in the next video. Until then, stay silent. Stay powerful. Your silence is your strength.